Moneyball. It's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot by professional sports fans, specifically those of smaller market teams who try to squeeze out the most amount of value from every player for the cheapest amount of money. But what is it exactly? Moneyball is a revolutionary concept in professional sports that emphasizes using statistical analysis to gain a competitive edge. It was originally coined by Michael Lewis in his book of the same name, which documented how Billy Beane and the Oakland Athletics used advanced analytics to assemble a winning team despite having a minimalistic payroll. Rather than relying on traditional scouting methods, they focused on undervalued player statistics and advanced analytics, many of which were developed by a man named Bill James. James was an English and economics major at the University of Kansas, but he was also an aspiring writer and statistician. And in 1977, he released what is now a famous book in baseball history, the Bill James Baseball Abstract. This new approach challenged conventional wisdom and eventually demonstrated that teams could achieve success by exploiting market inefficiencies in player evaluation. As time went on, newer analytics have come about for player analysis. And since the development of StatCast in 2015, there has been an explosion of new data available for player analysis. The concept of Moneyball changed the game of baseball drastically, and as more teams have bought in, it has once again become tough for small market teams to remain viable in this dog-eat-dog baseball world. What if we could find a way to do it just a little better than everyone else? Can we find a way to lead a team with a minimalistic payroll to a World Series title? What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the stream. Today we are kicking off a new series on this channel simply titled Moneyball. Traditionally, we would have easily selected the Athletics for this kind of a series, as they always have one of the smallest payrolls in baseball, and they are the creators of Moneyball. But it's not so simple this year, as they are actually in a pretty good spot with their roster for a change, and they are delivering on the diamond. So I had to go searching for another team that made sense. I eventually landed on the Colorado Rockies. This roster is an absolute mess. The farm system is weak, the MLB roster is terrible. Believe it or not, they're one of the least valuable franchises in baseball, ranking 23rd in the league behind the aforementioned Athletics. So how are we going to do this thing? Well, first, let's lay out some ground rules. For salary cap, I was originally going to go with $90 million, as that would give us a bottom 5 payroll in baseball. But I quickly realized that that was a little too restrictive. With arbitration and free agent salaries being more augmented and realistic this year, that $90 million dries up very quickly. So I turned to ChatGPT to help me find a number that seemed reasonable. Gave the AI some basic numbers and then added in some additional context regarding some of the financial difficulties I expect to face in game. When all was said and done, ChatGPT laid out a range of 100 to 110 million as a fair target. Therefore, I'll place a hard salary cap of $110 million on my yearly roster. In practice, this is actually very reasonable, as the most money the Athletics have ever spent on a single roster was $98.6 million in 2019, which is the equivalent of $116.7 million when adjusting for inflation. Also, $110 million payroll would rank 24th in the MLB this season, very much in line with the budget-friendly approach we are looking to achieve. Right now, you can clearly see we are above that $110 million threshold. Something to note, though, is that the player salary tab includes all 93 players in your system for calculation, not just your 26-man roster. I did some adding up of salaries and found that $133 million number is actually about $15 million more than the sum of the top 26 salaries. So when we look at this page before every season to ensure our budget is in compliance, we'll have to keep that in mind. This will obviously be a realistically run sim, no exploiting the trade system or signing high-end free agents for meager contracts. As I just mentioned, this is going to be a sim franchise only. I won't be playing any games, so my stick skills aren't going to be able to bail us out in clutch games. I won't be quick managing and exploiting that system either. We're going to have to win this one legit. So how are we going to do this thing? Well, I have a few ideas. We're going to target specific kinds of players that typical analytics loves. Specifically, we're going to focus on the 3 true outcomes: strikeouts, base on balls, and home runs. So for hitters, the attributes of focus will be vision, discipline, and power. For pitchers, it'll be Ks per 9, base on balls per 9, and home runs per 9. Thus, attributes like contact and hits per 9 will fall by the wayside. They're a nice added benefit, but not something we'll focus on. We will also place a premium on having good fielders, as this will help offset some of our pitchers' lower hits per 9 attributes. We will analyze player performance in-game using advanced statistics to see who is playing up to par and who isn't. For pitchers, we're not going to be focusing on ERA and WHIP. We'll instead focus heavily on FIP and WAR. For hitters, WOBA would be the best possible statistic to use. However, we don't have access to that in this game. Instead, we'll focus on OPS, ISO, and batting runs, which uses WOBA indirectly to calculate it anyways. That should give us a good idea as to who's performing well at the plate. We'll also use WAR to judge players as a whole, but also determine their defensive value, since batting runs will give us context as to how much of a generated value is offensive based. With this in mind, it should allow us to identify undervalued players in the league that we can target to build a complete squad. After identifying the right players, we still have more work to do. It is of critical importance that we build a deep organization. The deeper we are, the more flexibility we have with roster moves so that we can have the best 26-man roster. The final tactic to help us build a winner is to be aggressive in re-signing our young but high upside talent early in their careers. The Braves are an outstanding example of this, as you can see how they have incredible players on these budget contracts, which gives them more financial flexibility when they need it. To wrap up this first episode, I just want to show off the current state of this Rockies roster. I don't want to go into incredible detail in each guy because, to be honest, almost all of these guys aren't likely to be here very long. That being said, here is our lineup against righties and against lefties. This will be our starting rotation and bullpen. Honestly, not sure which part of this team is worse, the hitting or the pitching. This is going to be a tough rebuild. Anyways, that's all I got for you in this one. These episodes will each be one season in length, cut up into a smaller, watchable video. The next episode will be the entirety of season 1, and we'll be off and running from there. I hope you all enjoyed this episode and are intrigued by this series. I've never done something like this in MLB The Show, so I'm curious how well it's going to pan out. Definitely an intellectual exercise, and I tend to enjoy those. But in the meantime, between time, I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm gone. Deuces!